Hello, Pastor Ralf Friedrichs started this devotion with these words. We are going to talk about something that happens in nearly every relationship. He says, it is this moment, in the middle of a discussion, maybe an argument, when suddenly you are no longer talking about the dishes in the sink. You are talking about that thing that happened 3 years ago. The past enters the room uninvited, and it sits between the two of you, heavy and familiar. Why does this happen? Why do we reach back into our shared history, not for the beautiful memories, but for the grievances, the mistakes, the hurts? It is a dance so many of us know, a script we seem to follow without even realizing it. This act of bringing up the past is rarely about the past itself. It is a language, a complex code that speaks of the present. It speaks of unmet needs, of unresolved pain, of a power struggle that is happening right now, in this moment. It is a symptom of something deeper, a crack in the foundation that we keep papering over, only for it to reappear with the next tremor. Understanding we do this is not about placing blame. It is about decoding the message. It is about turning towards each other and asking, what is it that you are trying to tell me right now? In this video, we will explore the 10 reasons, the 10 hidden stories behind this common relational pattern. We will look at the past not as a weapon, but as a map that can guide us to the heart of the current issue. By understanding these dynamics, we can begin to change the conversation. We can learn to stay in the present, to address the here and now, and to build a future that is not constantly haunted by the ghosts of yesterday. Let us begin this exploration together, with curiosity and with compassion. Often, when we find ourselves in a conflict with our partner, the original subject matter quickly fades into the background. It is no longer about who was supposed to take out the trash or why someone was late. It becomes a trial. A trial where the objective is not to understand, not to resolve, but to win. And in this courtroom of the relationship, the past becomes the book of evidence. Every past mistake, every previous argument, every time you felt let down is brought forth as Exhibit A, B, and C. The goal is to build a case so airtight that the other person must concede. You are wrong, and I am right. This need to be right is deeply human. It is connected to our sense of self, our integrity, our perception of reality. To be wrong can feel like a small death, a dismantling of our own narrative. So we fight, we defend, we build walls made of past grievances. Remember that time you did this? Well, this is just like that. You always do this. This word always and its cousin never are the prosecutors in this trial. They take a single event and transform it into a permanent character flaw. The argument is no longer about a specific action. It has become about who you as a person. When we use the past as ammunition, we are not trying to connect. We are trying to conquer. We are trying to establish a hierarchy of righteousness. But in a relationship, when one person wins, both people lose. The connection is severed, the trust is eroded, and the space between you grows wider. The victory is hollow because you are left standing alone on your side of the argument, holding a trophy of rightness while your partner retreats, wounded. The real question is not who is right, but how can we find our way back to each other? Forgiveness is not a single act. It is not a switch that we can simply flip from unforgiven to forgiven. It is a process, often a long and arduous one. And sometimes we say the words, I forgive you, but the heart has not yet caught up. The hurt remains, like a thorn embedded deep in the muscle. It may not ache all the time, but with the slightest pressure, with a new disagreement, the pain flares up, sharp and immediate. And when it does, the memory of the original wound comes rushing back. This is when the past is resurrected. The unforgiven event, be it a betrayal, a deep disappointment, or a moment of abandonment, creates a story. And this story becomes a lens through which we view the present. A minor oversight today is not seen as just a minor oversight. It is seen as a continuation of that original unforgiven story. You see, you are doing it again. Nothing has changed. Bringing up the past becomes a way of saying, I am still hurting from that thing you did. I have not healed. The wound is still open, and this new action just poured salt in it. It is a cry for acknowledgement of a pain that has not been fully processed or validated. Often the person who was hurt feels that the gravity of their pain was never truly understood by their partner. So they bring it up again and again, hoping that this time, their partner will finally see the depth of the wound they inflicted. Until that healing happens, until the forgiveness is genuine and complete, the past will continue to have a visa to enter any present conflict. It will be a constant, uninvited guest at the table. In the intricate dance of a relationship, there is a constant negotiation of power and influence. It is not always a conscious, malicious play for dominance, but a subtle, shifting dynamic. And the past, specifically a partner's past mistakes, can become a powerful tool in this negotiation. It can be used as leverage. When a partner holds a past transgression over the other's head, they are, in essence, holding a debt. You owe me. Because of what you did, you have less right to complain, to demand, to be angry. This creates an imbalance. The one who made the mistake is placed in a permanent position of deficit. Their voice is quieted, their needs are demoted. If they try to bring up a current issue, the response can be, after what you did, you have no room to talk. The past is used to disqualify their present feelings, to invalidate their perspective. It is a way of controlling the narrative of the relationship, ensuring that one person always has the moral high ground, the final say. This is not about resolution, it is about regulation. This use of the past as a control mechanism is often born from a place of fear. It can be a fear of being hurt again, a fear of losing the other person, or a fear of losing oneself in the relationship. By keeping the partner in a state of perpetual guilt, the controller feels a sense of safety, a sense of predictability. If I can remind you of your fallibility, you are less likely to challenge me or to leave me. But this is a fragile kind of control, built on a foundation of guilt and shame, and it ultimately suffocates the very intimacy it seeks to preserve. Imagine a conversation is becoming uncomfortable. Maybe you're being confronted with a mistake you've made, or a responsibility you've kind of shirked. The spotlight is on you, and honestly, it feels hot and exposing. So what's the quickest way to move that spotlight? You create a diversion. You change the subject. And really, what could be a more effective diversion than bringing up a past grievance of your partner's? Suddenly, the conversation shifts. Well, what about that time you... This is a classic tactic of deflection. It's not about resolving the past, it's about escaping the present. The person using this tactic is usually feeling shame, guilt, or just plain inadequacy. They can't bear to sit with the discomfort of their own actions, so they throw a grenade from the past into the conversation, hoping to create chaos and confusion. The original issue gets lost in the smoke, and now both of you are on the defensive, arguing about 2, 3, or even 4 different things from different points in time. The initial point of accountability is just completely forgotten. This is a powerful and honestly pretty destructive form of conversational jujitsu. It takes the energy of the confrontation and redirects it. It's a way of saying, I'm not the only one who's flawed. You are too. So let's call it even. It's really an attempt to level the playing field by muddying it completely. But this tactic prevents any real growth or resolution. Problems aren't solved, they're just stockpiled. And the next time a conflict comes up, there's an even larger arsenal of unresolved issues to draw from, making true communication almost impossible. Our emotions are, well, pretty powerful forces. When we're calm and centered, we can navigate conversations with logic and empathy. We can actually stay in the present moment. But when we're flooded with strong emotions, anger, fear, deep sadness, our prefrontal cortex, which is the rational part of our brain, kind of goes offline. We're hijacked by our amygdala, the brain's alarm system. In this state of emotional flooding, we lose our ability to think clearly. We're in fight or flight mode, and we reach for whatever is available to defend ourselves. In these moments, the past isn't really a strategic choice. It's a reflex. It's what the overwhelmed mind grabs for. The feelings of the present moment, feeling attacked, misunderstood, or abandoned, are so intense that they trigger the memories of every other time we felt this way in the relationship. The brain creates a chain reaction, linking the current pain to all previous pains. It's as if all the unresolved hurts live in the same emotional neighborhood, and when one alarm goes off, they all start ringing. This isn't necessarily a malicious act, but more a sign of just being emotionally overwhelmed. The person isn't really to derail the conversation so much as they're just to contain the tidal wave of their feelings. They're drowning in the emotion of the moment, and bringing up the past is like flailing in the water, grabbing onto anything that floats by. The real key here is to recognize this flooding, in ourselves and in our partner, and to learn to pause, take a breath, and allow the rational brain to come back online before the conversation can actually continue in a productive way. There's a peculiar kind of relational arithmetic that sometimes shows up during a conflict. When one person is confronted with a mistake, a moment of "you hurt me," their response isn't to address the hurt, but to pull out a ledger. They respond with, "Yes, but what I did was not as bad as when you..." This is the game of comparative suffering or comparative wrongdoing. The goal is to minimize one's own transgression by placing it next to a larger one from the past. It's a search for absolution, not through apology or accountability, but through relativism. It's an attempt to regrade one's own paper. If my mistake was a C-, but yours was an F, then suddenly my C- doesn't look so bad. It might even feel like a passing grade. This tactic is really a defense against shame. By highlighting the other's perceived greater fault, the person hopes to dilute their own culpability, to make their own mistakes seem insignificant or at least understandable in comparison. But relationships don't operate on a point system. Pain isn't quantifiable or comparable. When you tell your partner that their hurt is invalid because you were once hurt more, you're dismissing their reality. You're basically saying, "Your feelings don't count right now because of a debt I believe you still owe me." This creates a contest of victimhood where, honestly, no one can win. Instead of healing the current wound, it just tears open an old one, leaving two people bleeding instead of one. True resolution requires addressing the pain that's on the table now, not trying to cancel it out with the pain of yesterday. Sometimes bringing up the past is not a defensive move or a cry for help. In fact, it can be an offensive one. It can be, a deliberate act of punishment. When a person feels deeply wronged and believes that an apology was insufficient, or that there have been no real consequences for the hurt they endured, they may take it upon themselves to become the judge and jury. They mete out the sentence in installments, and the currency of that sentence is the constant reminder of the past transgression. Each mention is a new lash of the whip. This is a way to keep the partner in a state of perpetual penance. The message is clear: you hurt me, and I will not let you forget it. You will continue to pay for what you did. The past is not brought up to be understood or resolved. It's brought up to inflict pain. It's used to spoil a happy moment, to win a current argument, or simply to reassert the power dynamic of the wronged and the wrongdoer. It's a way of ensuring that the other person never feels fully comfortable, fully forgiven, or fully free in the relationship. This dynamic is incredibly toxic because it is rooted in resentment, which is like a poison one drinks hoping the other person will die. The person doing the punishing may feel a fleeting sense of power or justice, but they're also chaining themselves to the very pain they are trying to avenge. They are stuck in the role of the warden, constantly guarding the prison of the past. True freedom, for both people, can only come from letting go of the need for retribution and choosing the difficult path of healing, which is honestly something entirely different from punishment. This reason may sound counterintuitive. How can reminding someone of their untrustworthy behavior possibly help to restore trust? It is a paradoxical and often misguided strategy, but honestly, it comes from a place of deep insecurity and fear. After a significant breach of trust, like an infidelity or a major lie, the betrayed partner lives in a state of high alert. Their sense of safety has been shattered. They're desperately looking for proof that it will not happen again, for reassurance that their partner understands the gravity of what they have done. So they bring up the past. In their mind, keeping the memory of the betrayal alive serves as a deterrent. It is a way of saying, "Remember how much you hurt me? Remember the consequences? Do not let that happen again." They may believe that their partner's guilt is the only thing keeping them faithful or honest. The reminders are meant to be like guardrails, to keep the partner from straying again. It is an attempt to control the future by constantly invoking the failures of the past. They are trying to manage their own terror by managing their partner's behavior. However, trust cannot be rebuilt on a foundation of guilt. Guilt is not a sustainable motivator for change. While acknowledging the hurt is crucial, constantly using it as a leash creates a dynamic of warden and prisoner, not of partners. True trust is rebuilt through consistent, trustworthy actions over time. It is rebuilt through transparency, empathy, and a partner demonstrating through their present behavior that they are a safe harbor. The constant reminders, while intended to prevent a repeat, often prevent the very healing that is necessary for a new, stronger trust to take root. Imagine you are trying to explain something deeply important to you, a hurt that cut you to the core. You share your feelings, but your partner gets defensive, dismisses you, or changes the subject. You feel unheard. The conversation ends, but the feeling does not. It sits inside you, unresolved. The next time a conflict arises, even a small one, that unheard feeling comes rushing back. And so, you bring up the past issue again, and again, and again. This repetition is not about nagging, it is a desperate plea. When a person repeatedly brings up the same past event, they are often saying, "You never truly heard me the first time. You never understood the impact it had on me." They are circling back to the scene of the crime, not to relitigate the facts, but to seek the emotional validation they never received. They are looking for empathy. They are looking for their partner to finally say, "I understand now. I see how much that hurt you. Your feelings make sense." Without this, the emotional loop remains open. This is fundamentally about a lack of emotional safety in the relationship. If a person does not feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to express their pain without fear of dismissal or counterattack, they cannot move on. The past becomes a recurring symbol of this lack of safety. Each time it is brought up, it is a test. Will you hear me this time? Is it safe to be vulnerable with you now? Until the answer to that question feels like a yes, until the space between them feels soft enough to land, the past will continue to be replayed, a broken record of an unheard pain. Sometimes the specific event from the past that is brought up is not the real issue at all. It is a symbol. It is a stand-in for a deeper, ongoing, and unmet need in the present. The past event becomes the poster child for a current emotional deficit. For example, if a partner constantly brings up a time they felt abandoned at a party years ago, the real issue may not be that specific party. The real issue may be a chronic current feeling of being emotionally neglected or not prioritized in the relationship. The past story is easier to articulate than the vague, pervasive feeling of the unmet need. It is hard to say, "I have a fundamental need for connection and reassurance that is not being met." It is much easier and more concrete to say, "Remember that time at Sarah's party when you left me alone?" The old story is the tangible evidence they present to the court of the relationship to prove the case of their current emotional hunger. They are using the language of the past to talk about the emptiness of the present. Therefore, when your partner brings up a recurring story from the past, it can be a powerful invitation for curiosity. Instead of getting defensive about the story itself, ask a different kind of question. Ask, when you think about that memory, what is the feeling that comes up for you right now? Is that a feeling you have been having recently in our relationship? This shifts the focus from relitigating the past to uncovering the unmet need in the present. The story is the breadcrumb trail leading you to the real issue, the thing that truly needs attention and care right now. As we have seen, the act of bringing up the past is a rich, complex tapestry woven from threads of fear, pain, control, and unmet needs. It is almost never as simple as it seems on the surface. It is a symptom, a signal fire on a distant hill, alerting us that something in the present landscape of our relationship requires our immediate attention. To dismiss it as mere nagging or to retaliate with our own historical grievances is to miss the point entirely. It is to stay on the surface, fighting over the waves while ignoring the powerful currents underneath. The path forward is not to create a rule that the past is forbidden territory. That would be a form of emotional suppression. The path forward is to change how we talk about the past. It is to approach these moments with curiosity instead of defensiveness. It is to learn to ask the brave questions. What is the feeling behind that memory for you? What does that story represent about what is happening between us right now? What is it you need from me in this moment that you feel you are not getting? This is the work of intimacy. By understanding these deeper reasons, we are empowered to break the cycle. We can choose to stop using the past as a weapon and start using it as a map that can lead us back to empathy, back to understanding, and ultimately, back to each other. It is about creating a relationship where both people feel safe enough, heard enough, and cared for enough that they no longer need to live in the past, because the present is finally a place they both want to be. Let me know in the comments which of these reasons resonated most with you, or if you have experienced another dynamic entirely. Your stories enrich our collective understanding.